The Roman army had finally cornered Hannibal. 80,000 soldiers pressed forward across the Apulian plain, certain that sheer weight would crush the smaller Carthaginian force. By sunset, tens of thousands were dead. The Roman line had ceased to exist, and an army built to conquer the Mediterranean had been turned into a killing ground. This was Cannae. At Cannae, Hannibal did not merely defeat a larger Roman army. He designed a battle in which Rome's greatest advantage, its massed manpower, became the mechanism of its own destruction. The result was one of the most complete tactical annihilations in military history, and the closest any enemy ever came to ending the Roman Republic in a single campaign. This is how it happened. Why Rome never saw it coming, and why, against every reasonable expectation, the Republic survived anyway. Twice already, Hannibal had humiliated Rome. At the Trebia River in 218 BC, he lured a Roman army across a freezing river at dawn, then hit them with troops who had eaten, rested, and stayed dry. Thousands of Romans died before they had even warmed up. A few months later, at Lake Trasimene, he did something bolder. He hid his entire army along a fog-covered lakeshore and ambushed an entire Roman column marching blind. 15,000 Romans were killed or captured in a few hours, and the consul commanding them, Gaius Flaminius, was killed in the fighting. 2 consular armies destroyed in one campaigning season. Roman allies across southern Italy were beginning to ask a dangerous question. Was Rome actually going to win this war? Rome's answer was overwhelming force. The Senate authorized the largest army the Republic had ever fielded. 8 full legions, doubled with allied troops and commanded jointly by 2 consuls, Lucius Aemilius Paulus and Gaius Terentius Varro. The plan was simple. Stop maneuvering around Hannibal. Meet him in open ground, in daylight, with more men than he had ever faced, and end this. Hannibal chose the ground. A flat, open plain beside the Aufidus River in Apulia, near a supply depot called Cannae. No forests to hide an ambush in. No river crossing to exploit like Trebia. On paper, it was the kind of terrain that favored the bigger army. Room for Rome's mass of infantry to deploy and simply grind forward. But open ground cuts both ways. It also gave Hannibal's superior cavalry room to maneuver, and ancient accounts describe a hot, dry wind called the Volturnus, blowing dust straight into Roman faces that August morning. Not decisive on its own, but one more small disadvantage stacked onto a Roman army that was about to discover the terrain wasn't on its side after all. Rome's advantage was overwhelming. Roughly 80,000 infantry and 6,000 cavalry against Hannibal's roughly 50,000 men total. Varro's plan matched the arithmetic. Pack the infantry deeper and narrower than usual. Concentrate overwhelming mass at the point of contact, and punch straight through Hannibal's center. It was simple, and it was a trap Rome built for itself before the battle even started. A deeper formation meant a narrower front, which meant most of that 80,000 men never reached the fighting at all. They were packed in from behind, unable to maneuver, unable to see, able only to push forward into the men in front of them. Rome's size, the thing that was supposed to win this battle, was about to become the reason it couldn't be won. Hannibal built his formation to fail on purpose. He put his weakest troops, Gauls and Spaniards, in the center, in a bulging crescent pushed forward toward the Romans, with his hardened African infantry held back on the flanks and his cavalry split at both ends. When the Roman mass hit that center, it did exactly what a weaker force does. It gave ground. The crescent bent backward slowly and under control, drawing the Roman advance deeper into the pocket with every step forward. The Romans, sensing a breakthrough, kept pushing, walking straight into the trap's jaws. As the center kept folding, Hannibal's African infantry on the flanks wheeled inward, closing on the Roman sides like a door swinging shut. At the same moment, his cavalry, having already routed Rome's own horsemen in a separate fight on the wings, circled back around the entire battlefield and sealed off the one route out. In the space of an hour, the Roman army went from advancing to surrounded on all four sides. Packed so tightly that many could no longer raise a shield or swing a sword, the Roman infantry stood beneath the August heat, while the Carthaginian line contracted around them, rank after rank, realizing that the army's enormous size had become the instrument of its own destruction. There was no retreat. There was barely room to fall. Polybius records roughly 70,000 Roman dead. Livy gives a lower figure. Adrian Goldsworthy, among the foremost modern historians of the Roman army, accepts that the precise total can't be recovered, but the destruction of the army itself is not in serious doubt. Consul Lucius Aemilius Paulus was killed on the field. Around 80 senators or men of senatorial rank died in a single afternoon, according to Livy, a political class gutted in a single day. Southern Italy began defecting to Hannibal in the months that followed. Capua, the second city of Italy, joined him. Hannibal's own cavalry commander, Hannibal, is said to have urged exactly that. March now, and Rome falls within 5 days. Hannibal refused, and Livy's account has Hannibal snapping back. You know how to win a victory, Hannibal. You do not know how to use one. It's a brutal line, and it may not even be authentic, but the strategic problem it points to is real. Hannibal's army was exhausted, spread thin from 3 campaigning seasons, and it had no siege equipment capable of breaking through Rome's walls. Rome itself was defended, with reserve legions still available in the city. A failed assault on the capital wouldn't just cost Hannibal men he couldn't replace, this far from home. It would hand Rome the one thing it desperately needed after Cannae: proof that Hannibal could be stopped. What Rome did next is arguably more remarkable than the defeat itself. The Senate refused to negotiate. When a Carthaginian envoy arrived to discuss terms, they weren't granted an audience. Rome refused to ransom the roughly 10,000 soldiers Livy says Hannibal held captive, choosing instead to let them sit in Carthaginian custody as a message. This war was not over by a long way. Rome returned to the cautious, grinding approach of Fabius Maximus, the man who had been mocked as the delayer for refusing to fight Hannibal head-on. It turned out he had been right. Rome lowered its property qualifications for military service, armed freed slaves, and rebuilt its legions from what was left. It never offered Hannibal the one battle he actually wanted again. Cannae worked on 3 levels at once. Tactically, it is as close to a perfect double envelopment as ancient warfare ever produced. A smaller force annihilating a larger one through discipline, timing, and deception. Operationally, it destroyed Rome's principal field army and its senior political leadership in a single afternoon. Strategically, it forced Rome to abandon the idea of beating Hannibal in one decisive battle, but not the war itself. Rome changed its method. It never changed its answer. Could any Roman commander have escaped that trap once the armies were already deployed? Or was Cannae decided the moment Varro chose to fight on Hannibal's ground? In Hannibal's formation, on Hannibal's terms? Tell me your verdict. The wars end, the arguments don't.